Experts studying beehives notice something strange and immediately take a step back. Without bees, where would we be? They take care of our plants and flowers, giving the environment some much-needed help. And they make life a little sweeter with all the delicious honey they make. For all their contributions, bees have earned a place in one of the oldest churches in the world. But after a terrible disaster in 2019, experts were looking at this hive for more than its honey. By now, beekeeping is pretty much a national tradition in France, with apiaries or bee yards popping up all across the country. And after some persuading, a few new colonies were placed on the roof of the world's most famous church. In 2013, a biodiversity drive led to the introduction of a few hives on Notre Dame's sacristy roof. The 3 hives combined were home to roughly 180,000 honeybees, and they became an iconic and beloved part of the church for one particular reason. While they loved the benefits to both the environment and the economy, the people of France most enjoyed that they could mark the turn of the seasons with the sight of the bees' black and yellow coats. This made a 2019 event all the more painful. In April of that year, the whole world cried out as Notre Dame burned. Starting in the church's attic, a fire spread across the roof. Some speculation pointed to an electrical short circuit causing the issue. The people were horrified. The main focus, of course, was the church. Notre Dame was one of the longest construction projects in history, lasting 182 years, compared to 10 for Rome's Colosseum and 20 for the Great Pyramids of Giza. The church oozed with history, but even with fires raging, no one forgot about the bees. Only firefighters were permitted inside and around the structure. No one could check on the bees, not even one of the beekeepers, Sybil Moulin. All she could do was watch in horror as she feared for the survival of her precious hives. Even after the flames died down, Sybil Moulin, shown here, was not allowed to go up to Notre Dame's roof. She wanted so badly to check on her bees, but the building was still very unstable. On top of that, the city of Paris had another problem spreading across the city. See, back when the church was being built, lead was commonly used material for construction. People at that time didn't know the health risks that came with the dangerous substance, nor how it would impact the bees. Because the 2019 fire burned much of the lead into ash, the toxic material spread across Paris. Many schools, parks, daycare centers, and playgrounds were contaminated. Solving this issue took priority over Moulin's precious honeybees. She had to wait. Soon the rooftop of Notre Dame was fixed up and decontaminated enough for certain people to return to the burned-out structure, including Sybil. She wanted to believe her bees were okay, but she had limited evidence to support that. While the fire ravaged the church, aerial cameras recorded every single angle, and one shot seemed to show the hives unscathed. A particular photo had Sybil Moulin and her fellow beekeepers celebrating. One camera recording bees crawling on a gargoyle's neck. Beekeepers shared the image on social media, writing, "Our bees from the Cathedral Notre Dame de Paris are still alive." Confirmation from site officials. Still, the photo didn't shed light on one important question. Would there be greater unseen side effects from all the smoke and ash toxicity? Would lead affect pollen? Would smoke damage ensure the bees simply died later on? Sybil saw that her hives were about 100 feet from the fire at all times. Was that far enough? The first thing beekeepers had to do was make sure the bees were behaving normally. To experts' great relief, they were. The next step was to check the honey. That's when they noticed the first problem. Scientists closely investigated the contents of the honey and saw traces of lead. This had the potential to be a total disaster. How could experts use any honey if it was full of a toxic substance? Fortunately, the amount of the lead in the honey was minuscule and, according to the experts, harmless. Sybil Moulin was relieved. Her bees were going to be fine. Still, her worries mounted as Paris struggled to contain the lead. She wondered if her bees could help. The areas contaminated by the toxic ash were still unsafe, but it would be very difficult to tell the exact scope. This, the experts realized, was where the bees could come into play. Both beekeepers and scientists know that you can tell a lot about an area from the honey of a bee. So experts devised a way to use the insects to track where the pollution spread. By studying the bees' honey throughout Paris, scientists can trace just about exactly where the pollution is and clean it up right. Over time, the honey will let them know when the air's all clear. And so the harmonious relationship between the bees and the French continues. And it likely will for years to come. Even some of Hollywood's biggest celebrities are working hard for the bees. Please feel free to share this with your friends.